On the 20th of June 2025, the UK House of Commons passed the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill, a bill for voluntary assisted dying. And this is great news. Unfortunately though, as it's now passing through the House of Lords, there are quite a few issues coming up which may cause havoc with it actually being implemented, including that they may not be able to afford it. Before we begin, we post death and dying related videos every Friday, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's talk the UK Voluntary Assisted Dying Bill. In a nutshell, the Assisted Dying Bill gives terminally ill adults in England and Wales with 6 months to live the legal right to end their lives with medical support. Previous to this bill, the UK has had 6 previous attempts in getting Voluntary Assisted Dying Bill through the House of Commons, the first going all the way back to 1936. As an Aussie, it feels very strange to be talking about this because we never have anything before the UK does. Our government likes to wait and see what the rest of the world does with all the new stuff before passing it here, so it's very strange to be on the other side of it. So the UK has tried 6 times, and on this 7th attempt they have managed to pass it through the House of Commons, and now it's playing out in the House of Lords, going through more checks and balances. Now, touch wood, but usually once something makes it to the House of Lords, it does get passed, but maybe with amendments. But it has 2 more rounds to go with 2 significant issues to deal with: safeguarding and funds. So let's take a look. Safeguarding. Every time a VAD law is attempting to be passed, safeguarding is always a hurdle to jump. No matter how many countries have successfully put this in place, the newest country will always be full of people screaming, "Many innocent people will die," every damn time. Anyways, the particular safeguarding issues coming up in the UK are being asked by the British Medical Association, disability rights groups and palliative care organisations. These issues include risk of coercion or undue influence, i.e. vulnerable people, the elderly, disabled or socially isolated, might feel pressured into ending their lives to avoid being a burden to family or caregivers. Mental capacity and consent. Ensuring that patients genuinely have the mental capacity to make this decision consistently, and that conditions like depression are not impairing judgment. Critics argue safeguards for assessing capacity might not be robust enough. Accuracy of prognosis. Predicting that someone has 6 months or less to live is notoriously difficult in some conditions. Errors could lead to premature death of people who may have lived longer. Oversight of eligibility decisions. The bill replaces the High Court oversight seen in some jurisdictions and past proposals with a multidisciplinary panel. Critics argue that the panel may lack sufficient independence, time and resources to rigorously review cases. Potential normalisation of assisted dying. Some warn that legislation could create a shift in societal attitudes, making assisted dying seem like the expected option for the seriously ill, rather than one choice among many. Impact on palliative care. Some medical bodies and palliative care professionals fear that focus on assisted dying could divert resources or attention from improving access to high-quality palliative care. Conscientious objection protections. Concerns are being raised about whether healthcare professionals, especially in small teams, would be adequately protected if they do not wish to participate. Safeguard enforcement. Questions on how safeguards, independent assessments, cooling off periods, etc. would be monitored in practice, especially across different NHS trusts and private providers. There are some absolutely good points to be raised here, and despite my early comment on learning from other countries, how these things play out depend strongly on the government's ability and desire to see it succeed. Now, as they go into the last 2 rounds, which will likely end in October, there are various ideas being proposed to combat these issues. Ones that we know have been mentioned so far include that 2 doctors must confirm the person's terminal illness, prognosis and mental capacity. A multidisciplinary panel must review and approve applications. The patient must make a voluntary, informed and persistent request. There must be a mandatory cooling off period, though the length is still under debate. All cases must be reported and audited. This is all very basic stuff that many countries, including Australia, have put into place with their laws. But again, regulation is great and necessary, but enforcement and oversight of these regulations is more important for this to succeed. And this is where the issue of funding comes into play. Hi all! If you're finding this video interesting and would like to see more videos like this, please show us some love and click the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you're in the UK, perhaps consider sharing it with others. And don't forget, we have a Patreon as well if you would like to support the channel. The link, as always, is in the description. Now, let's look at some money issues. Funding. Like any law, putting it into effect is not as simple as just saying, well, there you go, you can now legally do it, go forth and enjoy. Government departments such as the Department of Health and Social Care and NHS bodies need to create policies, procedures and guidance on how to implement and administer the law. And the problem is, Health Secretary Wes Streeting has expressed significant concerns regarding the financial feasibility of implementing an assisted dying service within the NHS. For those who don't know, NHS stands for National Health Service and is the publicly funded healthcare system for the UK. The Health Secretary highlighted that establishing the necessary infrastructure, including approval panels and a commissioner, would cost roughly £11 to £14 million annually. He emphasised that there is currently no allocated budget for this service, stating, "The truth is that creating those conditions will take time and money. Even with the savings that might come from assisted dying if the people take up that service, and it feels uncomfortable talking about savings in this context, to be honest, setting up this service will also take time and money that is in short supply. There isn't a budget for this. Politics is about prioritising. It is a daily series of choices and trade-offs. I feel we've made the wrong one." Further projections suggest that the total cost of implementing the service over the first decade could reach £500 million. Prime Minister Keir Starmer acknowledged cost concerns but stressed that the government is committed to making it work and that choices will need to be made to prioritise funding. So why are they saying this? Like many public healthcare services around the world, the NHS was already struggling pre-COVID because of poor decisions made by many previous governments. Then COVID hit and applied more pressure, and it hasn't recovered. As it currently stands, the NHS is already facing chronic staff shortages of nurses, doctors and specialists, record waiting lists for operations and treatments, pressures on mental health, cancer and palliative care services, and underinvestment in community and end-of-life care in many regions. To put this new law in place, it would require new administrative systems, staff training and dedicated clinical time, legal, ethical and monitoring infrastructure, and public education and awareness work. Now, there is no doubt the system is struggling, but the reality is it could very well be done if the government can actually make a plan and stick to it. The numbers involved, perhaps £10 to £20 million annually, are small compared to the NHS's £180 billion annual budget. To compare that amount further, the UK's failed COVID test and trace app and program cost £37 billion over 2 years. The barrier is not the size of the budget, it's the political will, priority setting and operational planning. So with all this pressure assumed to be put on the NHS when this law gets implemented, there has also been calls for the private sector to help out and take on the burden of providing the actual services. Naturally, this got a bit of a side-eye reaction from many people at the thought of making dying for profit. And while I see their point, it has been done effectively before. In Canada, some private hospices do offer their version of it if public institutions object. In Switzerland, Dignitas and other private organisations have long operated assisted dying services within the legal framework. And some states in the US, like Oregon, there are private providers offering assisted dying in parallel with the public system. So let's take a look at the pros and cons of using the private sector. Using the private sector for VAD. If assisted dying services are delivered through the NHS, a major advantage is the equitable access. Eligible patients would not face financial barriers to choosing assisted dying, ensuring that the service is available based on need rather than wealth. The NHS could also integrate assisted dying with palliative care, mental health support, or broader end-of-life services, promoting a more holistic approach. Additionally, consistent national standards and oversight could help safeguard vulnerable patients and ensure accountability. However, the NHS faces well-documented resource constraints, and critics argue that introducing assisted dying could divert funds and staff time away from other essential services such as palliative care and cancer treatment. There are also concerns that an overstretched NHS system might struggle to deliver the rigorous safeguard, monitoring and support that assisted dying requires, leading to uneven service quality around the regions. By contrast, assisted dying services in the private sector might offer faster access, more personalised care, and greater flexibility around location and support packages. Private providers could develop specialist teams focused solely on assisted dying, potentially leading to high-quality, patient-centred care. The private sector might also respond more quickly to patient preferences, for example by offering home-based options or enhanced emotional or spiritual support. However, these benefits would come at a cost. Assisted dying through private providers could create or exacerbate inequality, limiting access to those who can afford to pay. There is also the risk that motives around profit might compromise safeguards and lead to less rigorous oversight. So while NHS delivery of assisted dying services promises fairness and consistency, it would require substantial investment and careful planning to avoid harming other areas of care. Private sector provisions might bring innovation and choice, but also raises ethical concerns about equity and oversight. A hybrid approach where the NHS provides a basic universal service and private providers offer enhanced options could also emerge. But this too would need to be carefully regulated to protect patients and public trust. With all going well, hopefully the bill will get its royal assent by October this year, allowing for the start of a 4-year process to formally implement it. The House of Lords does not normally block government bills from becoming law, but assisted dying is not a government bill, it's a private member's bill, sponsored by backbench Labor MP Kim Leadbeater. The government is officially neutral on the bill, although it will try to ensure parliamentary time is made available to debate it. So what do you think about all this? Let us know in the comments. And now, go talk death.